Hello and welcome to Greece Travel Guide. Greece is one of the best countries in the world for island hopping. Though many Greek islands share similar themes of great beaches, delicious food, and fascinating history, each island has unique stories and secrets to discover. With so many islands to choose from, why limit your holiday to a single destination when, with island hopping, you can experience so many amazing places in one unforgettable trip? If you've never travelled like this before, it can be daunting to plan your itinerary, and there are many pitfalls to avoid for a successful island hopping trip. Over the past 10 years, we've spent over 200 days travelling around more than 40 Greek islands, and in this video, I'll share everything we've learned to bring you the best and most comprehensive guide to Greek island hopping. You'll find chapter markers in the description below if you're looking for specific information, but I recommend watching everything to ensure you'll benefit from our first-hand advice that could save you from making costly mistakes. Part 1. How many islands should you visit? When planning your island hopping holiday, the first challenge you'll face is deciding how many destinations to include in the time you have available. One of the biggest mistakes is trying to fit too many islands into too little time. This will make your holiday feel rushed, wasting valuable time and money racing from one destination to the next, with barely any opportunity for sightseeing or relaxation. Ferry prices have also increased significantly in recent years and can put a big dent in your budget, though we'll explain how to make this more economical later in the video. We recommend spending at least 3 nights on each island as a general guide to pacing your trip. This gives you 2 full days to explore, plus a few hours on your arrival and departure days. Add additional nights for larger islands or places where you know there's lots to see. Some research here will pay dividends later. If you prefer a more relaxing holiday like me, a minimum of 4 to 5 nights per island will give you plenty of time to chill out and go sightseeing before moving on to the next destination. Based on these guidelines, we recommend the following number of islands for some common holiday durations. For 7 to 10 nights, choose 2 or 3 islands. For 11 to 14 nights, choose 3 or 4 islands. For 15 to 21 nights, choose 4 to 6 islands. If you're lucky enough to have more than 3 weeks to spend in Greece, you can be more flexible with your itinerary. If you're visiting Greece from outside Europe, you'll most likely be flying in and out of Athens airport. Depending on your arrival and departure times, you may need to allow an extra night on the mainland at the beginning and end of your trip to ensure you make your flight connections. Exploring Athens as soon as you arrive in Greece is tempting, but we recommend leaving this until the end of your vacation. You'll be free from jet lag, more relaxed, and used to the local climate. With this in mind, it's better to head straight to your first island as quickly as possible and add time on the mainland to the end of your itinerary. Part 2. Choosing your islands. Once you've chosen the number of islands for your itinerary, deciding which of the 150 plus inhabited islands you will visit is the biggest challenge. Most people approach island hopping with a wish list of destinations they want to visit, but it may not be practical to see them all in a single trip. Greece is a large country with islands distributed across a wide area. In this section, we'll look at Greek island geography and how you can plan a practical itinerary. The Greek islands are grouped into named clusters or archipelagos. The main groups can be seen on this map and include the Ionian Islands along the western coastline of mainland Greece, including popular destinations such as Kefalonia, Corfu, and Zakynthos, also known as Zante. The Aegean and Dodecanese Islands along the Turkish coastline, including Rhodes, Kos, Samos, and Lesvos. The centrally located Cyclades, including some of the most well-known destinations such as Mykonos, Paros, and Santorini. For an efficient island hopping experience, we recommend picking destinations within the same island group to minimise the time spent on ferry crossings. This also increases the likelihood of finding a regular ferry service between the islands you want to visit. Ferry routes exist between island groups, but these tend to be longer journeys and often only run once or twice a week, adding complexity to itinerary planning. With this in mind, we recommend picking the island you most want to experience and building the rest of your itinerary around it. Grab a guidebook or go online and research some of the surrounding islands until you find ones that spark your interest. Part 3. Travelling to your first island. If you're flying into Athens and your first island has an airport, you'll have the option of a connecting flight or a ferry from the mainland. Flying is the quicker option as you'll already be at the airport, and there are usually at least 2 daily flights to most islands, one in the morning and another late afternoon. Most internal flights take between 30 and 45 minutes and cost anywhere from 50 to 150 euros per ticket, depending on the route and time of year. Baggage weight and size limitations may be lower on internal flights, so consider this when booking your tickets. Ferry tickets are generally cheaper, costing 30 to 90 euros depending on the destination and whether you opt for a high-speed service or a conventional ferry. There's also no extra charge for luggage, which typically won't be the case for internal flights. The downside of ferry travel is the additional journey from Athens airport to the main port of Piraeus. This takes between 60 and 90 minutes by public transport, or 45 to 60 minutes by car or taxi. We recommend giving at least 3 hours between your flight arrival time and the ferry departure to allow for any flight delays, collecting your luggage and getting to the port. Many ferries also depart for the island in the morning, with fewer boats leaving Piraeus in the afternoon. So if your flight arrives during the day, you may have to stay overnight on the mainland to catch a ferry the following morning. In this case, it's usually worth paying the extra for internal flights to avoid losing the first night of your vacation to travel. Part 4. Ferry routes, timetables and costs. Neighbouring islands are not always directly connected by regular ferry services, so it's worth taking the time to research ferry routes and timetables before settling on which islands to visit and in what order. Get this wrong, and you may find yourself having to backtrack or take indirect routes to reach your destination, increasing cost and wasting valuable time. Most ferry companies publish their summer schedules between January and March of each calendar year. Although well-established routes tend to remain the same year on year, operators can change, and some routes will vary, so it's best to keep some flexibility in your plans until timetables are confirmed. The openseas.gr website can be used to view historical ferry schedules and give you some idea of what routes will likely be available for your chosen day of travel. For route planning, one of the best websites is Ferry. Not only does it cover the vast majority of Greek ferry operators, but it's one of the few sites showing indirect connections, that is, routes requiring multiple ferries. For example, this screenshot shows that in addition to Blue Star Naxos's direct route from Piraeus to Amorgos, there is also an indirect route via Santorini. This is especially useful when planning itineraries, as it gives you a sense of which routes are available directly and which require multiple ferries. Better still, if you click on the green eye icon, it shows you the ferry's route, allowing you to see which other islands it stops at on the way. We've often used this information to plan island hopping trips, knowing that the islands are part of an established ferry route. Fast versus slow ferries and time of day. There are 2 types of Greek ferries, high-speed and conventional. High-speed ferries, as the name implies, travel much faster and will typically get you to your destination in half the time of a conventional ferry. They are often passenger only, with limited or no outdoor space and aeroplane-style seating. Conventional ferries, by contrast, travel more slowly but at a greatly reduced cost, often less than half the price of a high-speed ticket. You can sit comfortably indoors or outside on open decks, and they nearly always carry cars and lorries. These larger vessels are much better at dealing with adverse sea conditions, making them recommended for anyone who suffers from travel sickness. It's also a more leisurely and enjoyable experience to relax outside and take in the sights as you move from one island to the next, much as you might on a cruise ship. The trade-off is a slower crossing, often starting or ending your journey at less convenient times. Personal preference and route availability determine whether you would rather pay a premium to reach your destination sooner or save money and travel more slowly. One thing to consider when planning ferry journeys is the departure and arrival time of the service. Most hotels require you to check out of your room by midday, but won't let you check in until 2 or 3 p.m. Planning your journey for late morning or early afternoon is best, as it reduces the time you'll have to spend without a hotel room to relax in or store your luggage. Of course, finding a ferry that aligns perfectly is not always possible, but these small things can really help to optimise your island hopping experience. Boarding the ferry. Greek ferry ports can be chaotic in high season. Ensuring you get on board the right ferry may seem straightforward, but some islands take multiple ferries simultaneously, and with hundreds of other passengers getting on and off, it can be stressful. Unlike airports, there's no requirement to be at the port ahead of the ferry departure time. You just need to be able to set foot on board before the boat leaves. However, we recommend arriving 15 to 30 minutes early so you can get to the correct location and be ready to board when the ferry arrives. Most ports have a basic gate system, covered passages with the name or company of the next departing boat displayed at the entrance. These tend to have limited space though, and often you'll end up standing outside in a large group with other tourists, preferably under some shade if you can find any. Check the name of your boat on your ticket or booking confirmation to make sure you're in the right place, and don't be afraid to ask nearby passengers or port staff if you aren't sure. When the ferry arrives, you'll be kept back while the arriving passengers and vehicles disembark. Once the boarding ramp is clear, it's a free-for-all to get inside. Stow your large items in the hold and then make your way up to the seating area or, on larger vessels, to the outside decks if you want fresh air and a better view. Buying ferry tickets. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, there was little reason to book ferry tickets as you had to obtain a physical paper ticket before boarding. This required visiting a local ticket office and often paying a small printing fee. Nowadays, nearly all ferry operators accept e-tickets on a mobile device or a QR code that you can print yourself, making online booking a more convenient prospect. However, the question of when to get your tickets is worth exploring. Purchasing your tickets in advance is recommended if you travel on popular routes during peak season from early July to mid-September and around the Greek national holidays. Ticket prices are fixed by the Greek government, so there are no discounts for booking early, and if you want to change plans at short notice, tickets are often non-refundable and cannot be transferred to another journey. For 3 or 4 night stays, we advise purchasing your onward ferry ticket as you arrive on each island. If you're staying in the port town, where most ticket offices are located, you can wait even longer and buy your ticket on the day of departure or the night before. If you prefer to book online, this advice still applies, and waiting until close to your departure day gives you maximum flexibility. In the event of ferry cancellations due to bad weather or mechanical issues, the local ticket offices are the best place for advice on making alternative arrangements. If you booked online, you should receive email or text notifications informing you of any changes to your itinerary. Part 5. Choosing your accommodation. Having decided which islands you want to visit and how long you intend to stay, choosing accommodation is the next thing to tick off your to-do list. There's a small risk in booking your hotels in advance, as ferries can get cancelled in bad weather, delaying your onward journey. The popularity of online booking sites such as Booking.com makes it possible to reserve accommodation within 24 hours of your arrival time. But in peak season, you may find that options are extremely limited if you don't reserve well in advance, especially on the more popular Greek islands such as Mykonos, Paros and Santorini. Booking accommodation with free cancellation can mitigate some of these risks. However, they usually have a cut-off date several days before arrival, so they won't help you if the ferry is cancelled on the day you're meant to travel. But they do give you the flexibility to change plans ahead of time. The practice of hotel and apartment owners greeting arriving ferries with boards advertising their accommodation is still popular on some islands and can offer the best deals for committed budget travellers. But often rooms are booked up in advance, and on busy islands you could end up sleeping under the stars. Choosing which resort to base yourself on each island is mostly personal preference, and it's worth researching a location that matches your holiday aspirations. Some prefer quiet, traditional villages, while others look for lively beach resorts. One thing to consider when island hopping is the proximity to the ferry port. For shorter stays of 3 or 4 nights, it can be beneficial to base yourself in the port town, often the island's capital, to make getting to and from the ferry cheap and easy. If your accommodation offers free transfers, and it's always worth asking if not advertised, take advantage of this for the smoothest travel experience. If you decide to stay further away from the port, the local bus service will typically have a schedule that coincides with ferry arrivals to transport visitors around the island. Buses are the cheapest way to get to your accommodation if you aren't within walking distance of the port. Taxi stations are typically situated at or close to the port and will provide you with a faster and more personal transfer, albeit at a higher cost. Taxis are reasonably priced on most Greek islands and worth considering if you don't want to take the bus. Most Greek taxis will work on a fixed price, so ask how much it will cost before you get in. You'll usually find vehicle rental shops at or near the port as well, to cater for visitors who want their own transportation on arrival. These can become crowded when large ferries arrive during high season, so booking in advance can be worthwhile, particularly if you have specific requirements such as an automatic gearbox or a large vehicle. Be aware that on some islands, such as Santorini, the ferry port is some distance from the main town and no accommodation is nearby. Although local buses serve the port, these only run from the capital Ferry. If you stay elsewhere, you may need to allow extra time to make the connecting bus, or pay for a private transfer through your accommodation or travel provider. Part 6. Getting around Greek islands. Cars, motorbikes and ATVs. With limited time on each island, hiring transportation can be a great way of seeing as much as possible. We don't recommend motorbikes or mopeds unless you're an experienced rider, as Greek roads aren't the best, and safety is more important than saving a few euros. A car or quad bike is a great way of getting around. Most rental companies allow you to collect a vehicle early in the morning and return it late into the evening or first thing the next day, so they can be good value if you plan your time well. Buses and taxis. During the main tourist season, from early May to late September, bus timetables are padded with extra services to cater for increased demand and offer a cheaper alternative to hiring private vehicles, with tickets costing between €1.80 and €4 on most islands, depending on the length of the journey. Bus routes can be circular or run back and forth between the main town and smaller villages or beach locations. Timetables can usually be found printed at bus stops and are increasingly available online, allowing you to make plans ahead of time. The downside with local buses is that you're at the mercy of their timetable. This may force you to compromise on the places you can visit in the time available. Taxis are a decent alternative to get around more quickly or to a location not covered by the local bus service. Though more expensive than buses, they are generally affordable, especially if you are travelling in a group or family of 3 or 4 people and can share the cost. Greek island taxis are typically silver in colour, often Mercedes-Benz. Many restaurants and hotels will arrange taxis for you if you ask them, or can provide you with a number to call. You will usually find taxi ranks in most tourist towns, and if there isn't a vehicle waiting, you may find a printed list of mobile numbers nearby to arrange a collection. Be aware that on some islands, taxis are in high demand and short supply, Mykonos being a good example, and as a result, you may need to arrange one well in advance or rely on a private transfer service instead. Bicycles and e-bikes. On a recent trip to Paros, we hired e-bikes and found them to be a fantastic, environmentally friendly way of getting around. Pedal cycles are cheaper, but remember that most Greek islands are hilly, so don't be fooled by the short distances between locations on a map, or you might get caught out climbing some steep hills. Greece is also prone to high temperatures in peak season, so apply plenty of suntan lotion and take regular breaks for shade and water. Part 7. Flying home. Whether you're flying home directly from a Greek island or returning to the mainland to fly via Athens International Airport, it's important to make sure you reach your final destination in good time and allow for potential delays due to ferry or internal flight cancellations. For this reason, we advise reaching your final island or mainland Greece at least one day before you fly home. For Athens flights, as mentioned at the start of the video, this is the best time to plan any sightseeing you want to do in the capital. If you're taking a flight from one of the many islands with international airports, it's still a good idea to overnight on the island to give you peace of mind that you're just a bus or taxi ride from catching your flight. That said, if your flight departs late afternoon or evening and you aren't too risk averse, taking a same-day ferry before you fly is an option and allows you to maximise your time elsewhere. Our advice here is to ensure that the route has at least 2 ferry connections, ideally on larger conventional ferries that are less susceptible to cancellation in bad weather. Make sure the ferry will allow you to reach the airport with 2 or 3 hours to spare, providing contingency for delays and time to get from the port to the airport. Part 8. Island hopping tips and advice. To finish up, here are some general tips to help you get the most out of your island hopping adventure. Number 1. Travel light. Travelling with as little luggage as possible makes island hopping much easier. Backpacks are preferable to suitcases, as you can get around more easily and travel distances on foot instead of relying on buses and taxis. Try to avoid completely unpacking at each destination. You'll save time and energy when moving on a few days later. Number 2. Make flexible plans. Although planning a route and booking accommodation in advance will give your trip structure and ensure you have a bed to sleep in, an exciting aspect of island hopping is the opportunity to change your itinerary as the mood takes you. Maybe you want to spend an extra day or 2 on your current island, or make a last-minute detour to a new island on the recommendation of fellow travellers. The less rigidly you plan, the more you can adapt to changing circumstances and desires. Outside of the peak tourist season, mid-July to early September, most islands will have some accommodation available and ferries are rarely full. With the ability to book rooms and buy tickets online, you can make up your route as you go along. Number 3. Prepare contingency plans. Though uncommon, ferries and internal flights can get delayed or cancelled in bad weather or due to mechanical issues. Being prepared will help you avoid panicking if something unexpected affects your plans. For minor delays, the best practice is to ensure you factor in extra time to reach your destination, particularly if you have a connecting ferry or flight to catch. For longer delays or cancellations, check if other services are running to get you to your destination. For example, if an internal flight is cancelled, see if a ferry route can be used as a fallback. Make sure your travel insurance will cover you if you have to rebook expensive international flights and extra accommodation due to a missed departure. That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it helpful. We highly recommend trying island hopping as a great way to see and experience more of the Greek islands. A lot of the advice here can also be applied to multi-destination trips to mainland Greece or other parts of the world. If you have any questions, please comment below, and if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and consider subscribing to see more of our content.